Patrick Klepek, we learned about a bunch of shows that are happening. Upfronts are going on this week. Companies showing their wares off, showing all the vibrant, thriving ecosystem of what is happening in the world of scripted television. Not really, it's going quite poorly. But we learned about some shows that are happening. First of all, there is an Office spinoff coming. This show, a new iteration of The Office, is going to be streaming on Peacock. According to the logline, quote, the documentary crew that immortalized Dunder Mifflin's Scranton branch is in search of a new subject when they discover a dying historic Midwestern newspaper and the publisher trying to revive it with volunteer reporters, end quote. Currently starring Donald Gleason and Sabrina Impactore, and production scheduled to begin in July. Patrick Klepek, you excited for a new edition of The Office? What do you think? Set in a dying Midwest newspaper?
Relative to some of the spin-off ideas they were talking about as The Office was actually ending and they were trying out different episodes that maybe like set up Dwight's farm family.
Right.
I mean, like just increasingly desperate attempts to continue.
Remember Idris Elba was on the show at one point? That was what, you know.
Yeah, I have genuinely blacked out most of like the final season. I watched all of it, but I've like just conveniently forgotten much of the final seasons of that show as it slowly twisted in the wind. If you're going to do a follow to The Office, this is a great logline. It's a great premise. I'm in media. Like this is ripe for a lot of satire and sadness. Yeah. Oh yeah, like it's a don't be in my business. Terrible business to be in. It has similar vibes to like running it at a paper company in, you know, that like when The Office started. This doesn't mean it's going to be good. It doesn't mean that it's going to live up to like some of the great heights that The Office had during the best parts of its run. But if you're going to do it, I liked the fact that, you know, multiple actors in the original show are already like, I'm not going to be involved. Don't want to be involved. I don't think they'll be able to fully resist, you know, having no crossovers between them. But if that is mostly just cameos to juice the numbers on a show that is otherwise trying to establish itself, like I love the showrunners involved. Like they haven't really steered me in in the past with too many of their work.
Greg Daniels, who developed the original Office in America. He's co-creating the new series with Michael Cohen. So it's like, yeah, it's very talented people working behind the show for sure. Yeah,
and you kind of get a vibe that I have no idea if this is true in the creative process, but like, hey, we'll make this show if you call it The Office. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
somebody had this cool idea,
right,
for a show about a dying you know, it's not even this like Dunder Mifflin. It's just like it's a whole other company, and they're like, oh yeah, yes. Come to think of it, it was gonna be an Office sequel. That's what it, you know.
It's a great idea, actually. Calling, you know, so
yeah, it's like you can imagine the pitcher coming in and being like, I call it, you know, the Great American Newspaper. And they're like, interesting. How do you like The Office Part 2? He's like, love it. You can just see how the meeting went down, you know. So yes, brilliant job to all the people involved for getting their idea for a new show rebranded as an Office sequel. Bravo, get that bag. I think The Office is such a weird show, Patrick Klepek, because it started incredibly good, ended pretty badly, has now become universally beloved, is like one of the most popular shows on streaming. Like when it was on Netflix, it was like a huge deal. Like everyone loves it.
Well, it's moved in the culture. It is, you know, it was, you know, very popular with, you know, folks of, you know, of our age, and it's managed to then through streaming like go downstream to younger generations and be just as much, if not more popular with younger generations. So I'm not shocked that, you know, there would be, you know, juice left to squeeze in that name.
And I appreciate how certain things about The Office have been reevaluated. I mean, first of all, it is virtually unheard of these days for a show to go on for that long, like that many seasons. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, this thing is just a shambling corpse version of its former self. Why don't they just put it out of its misery? Now I look back, I'm like, wow, it's actually impressive they made it all the way to the end. You know, like, because so many shows in the streaming era get cut short. Also, Jim from The Office, kind of an asshole, you know, like a character that you rooted for at the time. Oh, I hope they get together, everything. But then like when you look at the totality of Jim Halpert, when you look at his life, the corpus of his works, truly a monstrous figure, in my opinion. And I'm glad that we've been able to have that conversation in the time since then. So society truly has matured. I'm excited for them to try this again. I think the format was great. Like, there was nothing wrong with the format. It has become ubiquitous and kind of played out at this point, but I hope they can breathe new life into it with this thing. So we will see how that plays out, but it'll be available on Peacock when the Office reboot comes to streaming.
One last point I'd make at it, though, is that The Office Season 1 history, like, it's been a long time since I've revisited it. Most of the comedies that we call legendary and have these long runs have very awkward, mediocre, figuring themselves out first seasons. That sort of patience does not exist in the streaming era. And so, now granted, you have creatives that have done this before, but even like Parks and Rec, like, awkward first season.
Yes.
Like, really, the way people talk about those shows' highs is season 2 and beyond. And so that's the one thing I wonder about with the amount of weight you're putting on that show by calling it The Office, what it has to come out with out of the gate, when comedies by design are, we got to kind of figure out what we're good at. I think John Mulaney actually made an extremely funny joke about that in the first episode of Everybody's in LA, which is, comedy, you figure it out as you go along and you get better. We don't have time for that. So this is mostly just going to suck for the next 6 days. It was a very funny acknowledgement of how comedy, by design, works itself out. So it was the one thing that I'd leave that conversation on, is that puts a different kind of pressure on the show that is different than how most of the long running legendary comedies, Seinfeld, The Office, you name it, they got better as they went along, because most good comedy television shows work that way.
That's a great point, Patrick Klepek. I'm just going to put this out there. I think the streaming service that greenlit Twisted Metal Season 2 is going to have space for this new Office reboot to figure itself out. I'm just going to...
Yeah, I take it back.
I'm calling my shot right now. I'm calling my shot. Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.